So what I'd like to do is introduce the speakers who clearly are the main event of today. So starting with Sarah, and I did ask Sarah how to pronounce her surname, which is Thirlwall. So Sarah is the Chief Transformation and Technology Officer at Lotto New Zealand, where she recently managed a nationwide rollout across more than 1,140 retail stores and 1,200 new terminals. From her time as Chief Digital Officer at Minter Ellison Rudd & Watts to her deep roots in health ICT, Sarah brings over 2 decades of experience in turning technical complexity into seamless digital experiences. So welcome, Sarah, and please come and join me. Thank you. So next up is a leader who truly understands the science of building brand loyalty at a national scale. Ian Sutcliffe is the founder of Cashpoints and was the co-founder of AA Smart Fuel. And that was a program he spent over a decade fine-tuning until it reached more than 3 million members. With a heavyweight background in senior executive marketing roles at McDonald's and Westpac, Ian has spent his career decoding customer behaviour to drive massive commercial growth. So please welcome a man who knows the Kiwi consumer better than almost anyone. Ian, thank you. So finally, it is my pleasure to introduce one of my colleagues here at Assurity. Reg is our General Manager of Practice and Solutions and a true veteran of the consulting world. So with over 20 years of experience, Reg has seen it all right, from the fast-paced world of telco and banking to the dairy industry, government and gaming sectors. He is obsessed with the why behind technology, moving beyond can we build it to the much more critical question, should we? At Assurity, Reg leads the brilliant customer-obsessed teams that ensure New Zealand's largest enterprises can deliver at scale. So, he's here to share the blueprint for how we can all deliver better, more reliable products. So please welcome Reg.
Thank you.
So the first question for both our guests is if you could give a state of play on your companies and the shared vision for the projects you've been involved in. So maybe starting with Sarah.
Okay, so with New Zealand Lottery, so that is New Zealand Lottery's commission, and my role there is Chief Transformation and Technology Officer. So our purpose is to run a national lottery and obviously generate really essential funding for New Zealand communities. We're governed by the Department of Internal Affairs. We're a Crown entity. We're not a government department, and we are self-funding. So one of the things that how we generate that revenue and returns to the New Zealand community is we run several games, and that's across our retail and digital networks. So we've got, I think we mentioned earlier, 1,140 stores, and we have a digital online presence which actually accounts for now on average around 49% of our revenue. So in context of what we're here to talk about today, we need to replace our gaming system. So that gaming system ran all of our 7 games and generates 1.7 billion in revenue. And after we pay our players and pay to run the business, pay a bit of tax, we then return around last time 435 million to New Zealand communities, and that's over 1,000 every year, really good causes who really truly benefit from this funding. So what we had to do was replace the system that ran all of that. It was end of life, and it was certainly end of contract life. We couldn't extend any further because we are a Crown entity and subject to procurement rules. So we went out to the market. Only international suppliers can run these systems, provide these systems. So we did a market scan, we went out with an EOI, we then narrowed that down and went out to an RFP with 5 suppliers. We allowed best of breed because we really wanted to offer very exciting gaming opportunities for our players for the future. So we thought that we entertained that we could have a different supplier with really awesome, excellent games. And then also someone that sort of ran the core, which provided all those retail terminals and ran that sort of core gaming system. As it turns out, we chose a supplier that did both of those extremely well, Scientific Games. and that was a year doing that procurement and contracting, and then 2 years, just shy of 2 years for implementation. So you can imagine it's huge for our organisation. We had the attention of the DIA given the quantum of spend, and it therefore was number one priority in our organisation for 2 of those 3 years at least, touching every area of the business.
Thank you. Ian.
Wow, quite impressive. So firstly, I would love to have the brand recognition of kind of Lotto, and I'd also quite like that 1.7 billion of revenue. Would be quite a good stretch goal. But I'll start and assume that you know nothing about Cashpoints. But essentially, Cashpoints is a multi-partner loyalty stroke rewards program that allows customers or cardholders or app users to be able to earn cash points at participating retailers in real time, and also to be able to redeem those cash points in real time at the family of partners. So cash points as a name is kind of what it says it is. So a cash point's worth a cent. So if you've got, I don't know, 100 cash points, you've got $1. The idea is you could, one of our partners, Mix and Match, you could purchase your flights. They might give you $5 worth of cash points. You could, in theory, drive straight down the road and redeem those at Peter Pit or at Super Liquor, and it just comes off your bill. So it is like cash. So it's kind of, so hence the name. But that's kind of the proposition. So that was pretty easy to explain. I guess kind of where it came about was off the back of 14 years of building and growing AA Smart Fuel in the New Zealand market, and the opportunity that we identified was for businesses that are out there that for whatever reason aren't part of existing coalition programs, of which there are fewer of them today, but they're typically kind of looking, they're big enough entities that either want to do their own program, they might have their own program and want to, I suppose, evolve their offering that they have, or they might have their own program and they're looking to take cost out. So, and those types of businesses, the big drivers that they're you know, the reason that they want to do it themselves generally are, I want to own the data, or I want to kind of understand more about the customer. From a rewards perspective, I really want to bounce them back into my own ecosystem, maybe rather than send them somewhere else. There could be a cost piece, and in a lot of cases, they also like the look of their own brand. So kind of the badging piece is important to them. Flip side of that is you kind of start talking to consumers and look at what they're after, and some of those are kind of 180 degrees from what the businesses want to do often. They want multi-partner programs, not a proprietary one necessarily, and only because they can shop at multiple partners, get to their kind of goal of a reward faster than they could if they were just using a single outlet, unless they've got very high frequency. They want instant gratification. They don't want to wait. They don't want to necessarily have to wait months to save up to be able to redeem. I want it now. Could be dead tomorrow. Why would I leave it on my card? They want transparency and visibility, so I don't need a maths degree to work out what my balance is. Just kind of tell me what it is. I don't need smokes and mirrors. So you kind of dovetail those two things together, and what we've tried to do is build a Cashpoints proposition and a system that delivers against that. So from a business perspective, we have an all-you-can-eat license fee that provides a lot of flexibility to partners. So they control the generosity. They can append a cash point whichever way they want by spend, time of day, card holder, product SKU, and they set that, and that's all happens as they load it. It's all real time and live. So they have flexibility. We have data sharing agreements. Again, none of the coalition programs will let go of any data. So working through that was a kind of big job with the lawyers. So obviously explicit opt-in and process to make sure we comply with Privacy Act and the Spam Act. But with the ethos or with the thinking of, if you're running your own program, you'd have customers sign up to those. And so why wouldn't you let them use the data for kind of, you know, the information? So we offer that. And essentially it's like a headless kind of program, I guess, where we offer the system, the engine that runs it, the currency, the cards, the app, the dashboards, the reporting. So they've got everything, you know, almost lured in a box that they can tap into. And then at the customer level, we talk about transparency. So Cashpoint, 1 cent, whether you collect it or you redeem it. So those points are issued in real time at times of transaction once you've done the desired kind of behaviour. Visibility, so you can see it in their app in real time. As you swipe, it's pop straight up your app. You can see your balance. You can go and disappear and use it. So that's kind of the model. And I guess you know, to drive that, you think it'd be pretty straightforward to build a platform that kind of just lets customers collect and spend, you know, cash points in real time. But when you dovetail in real time, 24/7, so kind of uptime, can't have any downtime. It means we've got kind of servers running in different time zones to make sure disaster recovery is there. You kind of look at the different interfaces that customers transact with, so whether it's app, web, card, across multiple partners. All right, we're still growing, but you know, if we Superlick 190 sites, they're talking real time to our system. We have kind of real time admin portal, so retailers and ourselves can go and look at what's happening in real time at any store. All these things we have connectivity into Braze in real time, so the marketing guys are sucking real time data to be able to serve up communications, feed Snowflake. So the whole system's built on a pretty robust structure, built in GCP, pretty kind of high-end kit. And we kind of started that 18 months ago, well, 18 months from inception to being in market within 18 months. So there's a fair bit of complexity. When you turn that thing on, you want it to work. So that's probably why we'll talk a bit about the Assurity stuff. So, yeah.
So Sarah, the Edge program was one of the most significant upgrades in Lotto's history. So how did you define the quality strategy for a mission-critical system where the goal was a seamless launch?
So, as I've said, it's the spend was between 50 and 100 million. So it was a big quantum that was had attention of. We did better business case, so it had attention of Treasury and DIA, and because it is the lottery, the national lottery, it's high profile, and we have to run it with high integrity, and we're dealing with a lot of money, as you've heard. So. For us, we had to meet, we also have to meet obligatory and compliance requirements throughout. So what we wanted to do at the end of all of this is provide a really seamless experience to our customers, to our players, and as little as possible disruption to our retailers. And we were swapping out their terminal. So that's a pretty big disruption. So we needed that to be as seamless as possible. So obviously our quality strategy was just to make sure we had actually really good requirements right in the beginning. And so we went out with an RFP with over 2,000 requirements. They were functional and non-functional. That flowed through into the contract, so that suppliers had to respond to whether each requirement was met, partially met or not met, and what they were going to do about it. And that then went right through into their our workshopping and solution designing, our technical specs, our quality strategy, our testing strategy, and then into each of the test cases and user scenarios. So, and then finally right through into compliance sign-off. So they have been absolutely essential all the way through. We could hold the supplier, and we did, to the response of some of those, say, oh, that's out of scope. Actually, let's just go back to your RFP document. Incredibly helpful. So it worked really well for us. And I think the final criteria, of course, is we want to go live with no P1s and no P2s. So,
how did you incentivise your suppliers?
How did we incentivise suppliers?
How did you bring them across? Was there any trouble with any of your suppliers that used? How did you ensure they?
So we had one supplier that won the bid, but of course we were still working with our existing supplier. And maintaining that relationship, and they have to work together, was really essential for us. Of course, we had other third parties there as well that we engaged right from the beginning and took them on that journey. So in terms of incentivising, it's called a really tough contract. But as the board were very important to keep pointing out to us is you must maintain the relationship. Yeah, you can hold them to contract. You can absolutely say this is what you've said, and we did have to do that. But it's actually about having a really healthy relationship, because our last one was 19 years. And so we want it to be just as long. So you can come in hard when you need to, but in a way that maintains that relationship. And collaboration was a big word for us that I actually felt like I had to kind of not introduce, because they were chosen, the supplier, because they were a good fit for our culture, and we could see that they would operate and collaborate. But it was certainly something that we promoted all the way through, was just have really healthy, robust conversations and be comfortable with robust conversations. So,
thank you. Any other questions for Sarah? at this stage.
So, what was the incumbent? What was then they didn't deliver what the future roadmaps for?
So they were in the RFP bid, naturally, and a strong competitor. But at the end of the day, we obviously had a number of criteria and really looked at particularly the architecture, and we really needed it to be modern, future focused. We looked at the game offerings and they had to be really exciting and world leading. It was pretty close, to be fair. It's really hard to give up a long-term relationship, and we've been with these guys a long time. But at the end of the day, the new supplier, their tech was better integrated. We had workshops on integration. It was absolutely key to us that was modern, and our system has to be really high performing. We get peaks that are massive. And New Zealanders love to check their tickets, and we open it up for them to do it. They love to check their tickets after the draw. That's actually quite unusual worldwide. Most people just do it the next day. So we have really peaky volumes. And so integration was key, particularly with other third parties, and they performed. They just gave us a higher sense of confidence in that area as well. So it was tough, but they did come forward as the clear winners.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Was price the determinant, sorry?
Pardon?
Was price a major determinant in choosing our end supplier?
Price?
Yes.
Absolutely.
The incumbent was more expensive, significantly.
No. So price was, as you know, when you go out for an RFP, price forms a percentage of your success criteria. And it, from memory, was 35, 40, around that percent. So no, it's not the only criteria. Of course, we want to be, run a good quality business. So it was important to us. But yeah, no, price was not the deciding factor.
Sorry, yeah.
You might come to it later. You obviously were on the new system and you were rolling it out. How did you roll it out in conjunction with your existing system that they commissioned?
Absolutely.
It's a whole transformation.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great question. So we did it big bang overnight. Yeah.
It's impressive.
1,140 terminals swapped out overnight. So we took the system down, gosh, Tanya, can you remember? So we took the system down on Sunday night, Monday morning, and we were up by Monday afternoon.
Was that always the plan?
Yep. Well, no, of course not. Who would opt for that? No, we really wanted to do a rollout. But our exiting company, IGT, had just had been working with the UK, and they just said, don't do it, do Big Bang. And so it was actually really good for us to just make that decision rapidly and deal with it and contract for that, because they obviously outsourced right across the country on that rollout with Datacom actually, and brilliant.
If you do that rolling out, you've got legacy that hamper out.
Correct. Yep, no, so we had a whole program of bringing that back into warehouses, and we've partnered with Spark, who have broken those down into parts and have shipped them around the world for recycling at no cost to us. Incredible. Nice. Partnership.
Good. Sorry.
So, hi Sarah.
Thanks.
So obviously that totally changed the risk profile of the project in terms of where you need to get to before you make that switch.
Yeah.
How did you get to that point where you felt confident to go on that Sunday night and that it would go with obviously great outcome, no P1s or P2s, but what was your process to actually get to that point confidently?
Yeah, it's a great question.
I'm guessing really thorough testing. I'm just throwing that out there.
We've actually got our test manager here, Tanya, and look, we had a really robust testing strategy up front, of course taking all those requirements, and a huge testing team supported by Assurity, and our own testing people, and very, very well structured. And you can only imagine the environments that we needed, the data we needed to load into that. She's trained me well. And just the testing teams. But probably the key one is executive engagement. So everyone wants to promote their bug as a P2. No way they're going to make a P1. But because if it's not, the workaround and the work that adds to their daily tasks can be actually overwhelming. So what we did is we met twice a week at one point, didn't we? Executives, every executive in the room, twice a week. We'd one of Tanya's team, and they just, depending on who knew the bug well, would explain the bug in business terms, which was really good, not technical terms. So we could understand what that meant for mainly our customers were our biggest concern, our retailers as well, and then on our teams. And so if it wasn't and we would negotiate whether that was actually a P2. So we really protected that P1 and P2 position. And I'm telling you, it's down to the wire. It was down to the wire. And we had that mandate, no P2s, no known P2s. And we just held it right to the wire, didn't we? And just the board would not let us go live unless we discussed it with them and they made the call at the end of the day.
I don't know, Reg might touch on it a little bit later, but we follow that sort of BBD and spec by example, which is putting everything in business terms so the business understands the risk.
Yeah, it was
and then
great.
can take a
It
risk-based
actually is a
decision.
skill within a tester to do that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you. Ian, so why was reliability your first priority for securing retailer confidence from a founder's perspective, somebody with skin in the game?
Yeah, I think, I mean, from our perspective, you know, probably less discipline than Sarah's organisation, I'd probably have to say. But the reality for us was we set we had a philosophy at the beginning that we wanted to make sure we built the whole program on strong foundations. Whether that be kind of, you know, whether it's testing, whether it's the cybersecurity, whether it's all our legal kind of advice, make sure you get those building blocks square, you know, really strong. But the biggest driver for us, to be honest, was, you know, we kind of sold in a vision to a number of retailers who actually signed up to a system that wasn't even built. So that's one hell of a leap of faith to say we're going to go live with a real-time system. We'll take your APIs that you've built, by the way, in the last few months. And we'll build to those, so they'll do their integration with the pods. They've got a whole bunch of investment and work, you know, kind of involved around that, as did we. So the thought of letting those people down that had kind of taken a massive leap of faith with us was probably the biggest driver around making sure we kind of did everything we possibly could to sort of ensure when we kind of flick the switch. I mean, things running in the background, but flick the switch on day one. You know, we went live kind of 1 second past midnight. It all went live. Not quite on the same scale, but a lot of people kind of involved in the process. So that was probably the biggest driver that we had. How the hell do we reassure ourselves that this thing's going to work? And you're never 100% sure. So yeah, and we did take a view that we'd never mark our own homework.
Yes.
And I think that's kind of just, for me, gives me peace of mind. You know, you talk to the developers, they'd be confident that everything was going to be tickety-boo, but I think for us, you go, awful lot riding on it to do it. So that's, yeah.
So it's kind of interesting, because I know when we were talking earlier, we had talked about the consequence of failure, which often drives your appetite and tolerance for risk. Yeah? And clearly you're both working in environments where there is a really big consequence of failure, you know, both from a government viewpoint, but also as a end user viewpoint.
Yeah.
So, and that no doubt drove your focus on quality and your focus on instilling confidence.
Yeah, and I think the other piece is, you know, we don't, as a startup, you don't have the luxury, you don't have any kind of trust points in the bank. You know, if you're kind of big entity that's been around a long time, you've built up trust and you've probably got a little bit of a latitude that you can recover from, or there's enough kind of trust points in the pot. So that's another thing preying on my mind. This doesn't work properly on day one. There's a bunch of pissed off customers, you know, as in consumers, along with a bunch of retailers that have gone, hey, we trusted you. This is kind of, so, you know, sure. So,
Yeah. Well, losing trust is a lot easier than building trust
yeah.
as you go forward.
Yeah. So.
Any questions for Ian?
What was your approach to involving retailers in your quality strategy? How did you coordinate it?
So really, I mean, the owner, for them, they kind of, you know, we're probably fortunate. So they build to our APIs, not the other way around. So we just really had open dialogue. You know, I think that the level that we engaged at with the businesses we talked to is either kind of board or CEO level. So it's not our program is not just a marketing strategy. It's not a shiny thing that you just kind of button on. So for them, they buy into it, they think through the process, and then it kind of gets, I suppose, bought into organisationally wide. So everybody's on the same page, and we just have ongoing dialogue. I mean, we are a tiny team. There's 8 of us, so we're a tiny team. We've got fantastic tech partners that we work with who really, grew the team. And to be honest, we probably leveraged off the likes of Assurity and various other organisations to go, hey, we're working with the best. We're not shortcutting this. So there was that element which probably helped them a little bit. But we just engaged. It's just dialogue. There's good documentation, and any questions and any nuances. They would pick some things up in our API docs and go, hey, what about this? We go, shit, okay. One or two of those things. So they bought into this, recognising that they're on the journey of, building something new. And they'd obviously assessed that the risk of doing this or the cost of doing this far outweighs trying to do it themselves. Communication probably is the biggest thing, to be honest.
Reg, so what are the universal non-negotiables for quality assurance that apply to both enterprise giants and fast-moving startups? And we've got representation from both.
Yeah, look, it's been great listening to Sarah and Ian just on the scale of things as well. So for Cashpoints, more like a go-to-market strategy, launching a product, but the complexities of bringing on other partners, but also consumer sign-ons as well, right? So that's twofold approach. And then for Lotto, like Sarah was saying, reliant on a system, 19 plus years, and consumers get used to that and their seamless journey, and then bringing on something else and not disrupting them, but enhancing the journey for the customers as well. I think one of the key things, and we've been very lucky working with, Lotto and Cashpoints is their quality mindset. It's been building there from the start. So the whole shift left side of things, embedding it, in kind of understanding what the failure points are, but also working as a team, what the success criteria are, and everyone's kind of working to the same goal. So like for us, quality strategy, setting it up front, non-negotiable, right? Everyone's on the same page. Obviously, it has to be flexible, so you can kind of, try and go live in a big bang approach. But the other one is just creating the foundations from the start as well, is looking at particularly, so for enterprise solutions, we did, the whole performance side of things, very, very, highly critical system. So I think payload side of things, we had built 1.4 million, the breadth of, performance channel testing, and we executed it, between 1 and 1.1 million, breadth of testing side of things. And that kind of, proved that the system actually held up. For Cashpoints, was on the other side of things, is being able to test all the endpoints from a automation side of things. So, create an automation strategy, and we used, our sort of BDD approach, but also we had developers working alongside of it. So, all the platform side of things and all the injection that was going on, like, Ian was saying, is allowing partners to hook in. So, being able to test all multiple different scenarios as well. So those are some of the foundations that were set up early on, but allow flexibility. But having consideration in terms of that quality journey goes shift right as well, because once everything is done, you need to be able to regression test everything as well, ensuring that the systems keep on running, not that it's go live and everything's fine. It's a continuous journey as well. For Cashpoints, is bringing on other partners who have the reliance factor of being able to just plug in, and ensuring that all those things keep on running as well. And for Lotto, doing multiple releases and ensuring that everything keeps on going as well. So those are some of the key things. But I think one of the key other big things is risk-based approaches, right? I think a lot of our organisations go into large projects and launch things, and these, it's a tick box solution. But what is the true risk in calculating that and actually building it as part of your quality journey? Because quality is not a tick box exercise. It's actually something that leaves behind and has to carry on. So that's some of the non-negotiables from my side of things.
So testing what's important and at the right time.
Yeah. Plus, right time.
Right time.
But also has to carry on.
Cool. Any questions for Reg? Please don't let him off easily. Okay. Oh, I've been there for you.
You still made a really interesting comment at the beginning that in order to get the sign-off to go live was a board decision. Usually in large projects and large projects, they'll just see is the tension between going live is the cost for that. Can you, some of the significant projects, even 70% of the cost of the project was quality, or making sure our rigorous quality program was in place. And that was the first place where both our project governance would look at saving because there was cost overruns.
Yep.
How did you deal with this tension that you would obviously have faced figuring out, hey, we need to change control of the project, but we need to stay within budget, and the fact that you get pressured to both better quality.
Yeah, it's a good question.
To your question.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
happy to
Sarah,
answer
maybe?
from my perspective. So, absolutely, that is where people may look to save money. Probably to our advantage was we had a very difficult project that was delayed, that required an extensive investment later in the program on testing. So we had a board that had come through that journey, so it was easy for me to put in a budget for testing. But when and that team grows over time, you don't need the massive team, and we're always trying to control the costs of our project. So you bring them on as and when you need them, their level of expertise. And that team just grew and grew, and we started to see when we have a shared kitchen, and the testers would sit at the table, and we had a really integrated team. I never really knew who was employee and who was Assurity and who was from wherever. But they had these shared lunches, and it just became such a joy to see, the noise and interaction that they'd have. And the board would come in for the meetings, and they too noticed it. And a couple of them said, can you take a photo of this, please, so that I can convince the organisations that I am also on the board of that this is the level of investment you need in testing to get the quality outcome that you're seeking. And so, I had to ask permission of these guys. They're happy to take a photo and sent it off to a board member. It's a continuous, not fight, but continue. You have to sort of keep saying what's the value of this that you get.
Do you want to add to that, Ian?
No, look, we're probably at the other end of the scale. In terms of from a startup perspective, moving quickly. We deliberately didn't put a board in place to start with. Single director, you can just move a whole lot faster while you get going. There's a board in place now from a governance perspective, by the way. But it was kind of just getting that timing right. So, when you're funding the thing, you want to move quickly. And I guess we were just reliant on external experts. So, a big kind of process or big kind of mandate for us was, if you don't know, put your hand up. There's only kind of 8 of us, for goodness sake. So we're not going to know everything. Yeah. And so trusted advisors, we've got the FDL in the room here, you guys, a whole bunch of people. They relying on those as part of our extension of what we were trying to do was really, really important. Yeah. But again, different level of kind of approach. You just want to move as fast as we can, but managing the dollars and making sure it's as robust as it possibly could be, and go, look, we've used the guns in that space. That's kind of how we rolled with it. So probably a different approach.
There's quite a lot of research out there which sort of gives you a guideline in terms of what percentage of the project cost should be around quality and testing in particular. And Gav and I have had many a conversation about what that number is. Most people underestimate it at the end of the day, and then that just comes round into rework, so you're spending it anyway. So have you got a gut feel for it, Reg?
Oh, look, from a global side of things, these percentages are 5 to 10%, right, of your project or program cost. But I think the percentages are good is a delta. Yeah. It's based on what are you actually trying to get out there, right? That's the critical factor. Going back to what I was saying is, if you have a quality mindset from the start, you can actually determine what quality actually means to it as well.
Thank you. So Sarah, with over 14,000 test cases and 1,140 retail stores going live on the same day, how did you coordinate 13 different business units to ensure that it happened in that period of Sunday to Monday?
I really feel like Tanya should be up there speaking. But probably a critical success factor is we took some of the best of the business and we seconded them 100% onto the project. And that was across all those business units. The other part of that is you must backfill so that they can focus 100% on the project. And they were there for 2 years. And so when it came to signing off and going through all the defects with them, Tanya went along as our test lead and test manager, and with these SMEs into their units, and actually said, right, these are your bugs. How can you? These are the proposed workarounds, or what would be the proposed workarounds, and negotiated where are they in our severity ranking. And you would have done that many times, many rounds. And so they became very familiar with the system. And don't forget, we had to rewrite all of our business procedures. So again, it was in context of those, so it almost reinforced those conversations. So it was a good cycle to keep doing. Tough on Tanya, who was always out there and always talking with them. It also had executive ownership and leadership on that as well. So they really made sure those teams were there having those right conversations.
I was just looking at Tanya's face then. There's this mix between joy and pain. And a lot of nodding.
Yeah.
Thank you. So, Ian, you utilised a hybrid delivery model, which was New Zealand and Manila. So, what were the drivers behind that?
Well, again, you're going back to kind of have, at the start of these journeys, you have principal views, and one was that we weren't going to outsource anything. Your views still change quite quickly when you realise that maybe that's not the smartest trick. And really the biggest driver for us was that I imagine, look, the Assurity guys kind of had a good conversation with us. But if you're disciplined and you hit all your timelines, probably New Zealand works pretty well because resource can be managed quite efficiently. But needless to say, we didn't hit our timelines. Kind of, usually we were a bit late or whatever was happening. And this was through my ignorance, having to, originally saying, look, we don't really want to outsource. But once we kind of got comfort with the guys around the Manila team, they're employees of Assurity, it's just an extension of kind of the New Zealand business. You got a whole lot more comfort, so that was kind of ignorance on my part probably. But once we moved to that model, the ability for the Manila guys to kind of flex resource up and down as and when it was needed was really good. So if we were late, actually they might put a few extra people onto what we were doing instead of, a smaller number. But the ability to kind of then deliver for us really quickly, it meant we might be late, but we'd catch up on the overall project. So that kind of flex was probably the biggest upside to us. And it worked really well. So we did some work in New Zealand with Scheibel and the team, and we did some in Manila. So yeah, it worked well. That was the biggest driver, our incompetence really.
Right. So I don't know if this is yours, Rich. Okay, so what is the secret to building a partnership of trust so consultants feel like team members rather than like vendors?
Yeah, I think we spoke about this before. From a Assurity side of things, from the get-go, first meeting, we go in as a partner, not as a vendor, and that's the key about building trust from the start. The discussions you have. The different views you bring out as well, and just kind of breaking things down rather than staying technical all the time. And that's a big thing around building trust, collaboration, and partnership. It's just the shared accountability of things as well. So going in, understanding what the success criteria is, and it's just one goal. Everyone's there to do that and provide that as an outcome. I think those are some of the great things. But at the same time, as partners, we have a job of actually providing thought leadership and bringing in different ideas where it's needed. Sometimes we have been on projects and programs where, things are just stuck. And if we just kind of stay back and say, oh, actually it's your challenge, we're not really doing our job. So we have to integrate, we have to build a collaboration and partnership, but apply the expertise we have been brought on as. And I think, those are some of the critical things, but the capability uplift as well. We keep on training our people to meet the requirements of a customer as well, right? And those are some of the key fundamentals in terms of building the key partnership area.
I know particularly with government work, we often suggest that you have a ways of working workshop really early, so you can set those guidelines and parameters. And often it gets overlooked, but in 90% of the cases, you end up having a ways of working workshop, maybe just a little bit later. So it really is important. So, thank you. Sarah, you dealt with a record 55 million draw that felt like a DDoS attack. Ian, and you manage real-time earn and redeem flows. So how did testing change your sleep levels at launch?
Yeah, how exciting to offer New Zealand's first $55 million draw, but so soon after a go live. Incredible. And so this was in our Lotto and Powerball games, and in Powerball it just kept going up after go live. I don't know how many times I went, you sure our system? You sure our system? You're absolutely certain that this is absolutely random, right? I just must have so many times at night going, God, please just be struck so I can tick. Yeah. But absolutely no way that it can't be, that it can be because of the system. It is absolutely random. So really exciting. Obviously, we had tested performance massively. So our biggest peak is 50 million, and then we must be one. That's within our game rules. And so we tested to 50 million, and then we tested 20% on growth. And the performance metrics were in those 2,000 requirements. And so naturally there's configuration and tweaking that you need to make with your supplier as you're doing these tests and just increasing that performance and reminding them of the RFP requirements. And then, so we actually, when the 55 came, we were actually relatively calm, more than we've ever been. And Matt's been around in the days where it was pretty stressful when we would do a 50 million. But we are well practiced at must be ones. And now that we had a robust system that we tested, we felt calm. And then probably the other thing is normally when we did this with an older system, we normally open around 9 p.m. After our draws. And when we did this, we would sweat and open around 2 p.m. the following day with a lot of chugging away in the background. And the system would chug around and make sure all the payments were correct. This time we were 1 hour later than normal, and the 1 hour was due to our people double checking procedures because all the procedures were new to them, double checking, and being comfortable to go out there. So that was just a fantastic result. Yeah.
And how do you change sleeping?
Yeah, well, I'm probably a little bit different. I don't think any amount of testing would have changed the sleep levels when we sort of pushed go live. But you got kind of people that have 18 months of building out. You got people giving the soul. You got money on the line. You got all those kind of factors around retailer trust. So certainly it eased the burden, I think, just knowing that we've done everything that we possibly could. I asked the same question to one of the developers yesterday, and he goes, no, we knew it was fine. We tested it to kind of 40 concurrent transactions a second or whatever. They go, no, that'll be fine. Yeah. Okay. So I think, all you can do is do everything you possibly can and then go right. And fortunately, we turned it on, everything worked fine. So, but yeah, I'm not sure whether it affected the sleep levels or not, to be honest.
Thank you.
So how do you decide when to build internal capability versus when to bring in specialist partners?
That might be you, is it? Or is that me?
Yeah, we love to maintain an internal team, but that's to operate the business. When we're doing large investments, we're obviously going to have burst resource for a period of time. So we can choose whether to have fixed term or to partner. You all know that, when you have fixed term, you've got all the overhead of managing these people and the ins and outs of when, people leave or come back, and it's a massive overhead. Yeah. So partnering is an easy choice for us for burst resource because all of that is managed, and we get the results and the outcomes that we need.
Yeah, thank you.
Ian, I think this is yours. How does a scalable QA framework allow you to adapt to partners' requests faster?
Yeah, I think I mentioned before, we're fortunate that most of we kind of build the API and our partners build to that rather than the other way around. So that certainly kind of probably makes it a little bit easier. But that said, we get quite a number of requests even in the early days just for, I suppose, modifications that are nuanced to each of the retailers, and fortunately we're able to kind of deal with that. So for us, the guys can build a kind of small test for whatever the modification is, and then be able to run that test to get, run those mods against the overall automated testing that's been built. So it just saves a huge amount of time for us, and I guess it means we can be more responsive. We can answer, we can hopefully deliver on what the customer asks in a timely manner, and have a bit of confidence that when we do deploy it, it's not going to break anything, and do it with a level of confidence. So for us, it works really well. We just don't have to go and redo the work twice. It's just a little bolt-on extension of the automated testing, and then away we go. So yeah, it works really well for us.
Well, definitely that way around with the API is going to help, isn't it?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah.
Not sure the partners think that way, but
You are one.
What is the number one trend in how organisations are evolving from quality assurance to quality engineering? Now, I'll throw that at Reg.
Look, it's no surprise, but AI is trending everywhere at the moment. It's disrupting our world, and especially in the QE side of things. It's evolving things really, really quickly. But if we take the AI side of things out, I think it's just going back to the fundamentals, right? So I think the business assurance and the risk still sit critical. And when you look at systems such as Lotto, moving away from a legacy stack to a hybrid, need technology that can push things into the future, enable larger jackpots without stress, and Cashpoints as well, onboarding different things and being able to allow consumers to take part in loyalty programs. Those are all critical risks. And unfortunately, we also live in a world of media, social media. One crash before, used to make the papers, may take a day or two. Now it's 30 seconds, right? And your brand can be ruined. I think those are some of the critical things where quality assurance and quality engineering play a big part. So as AI comes in, obviously everyone's really excited because you can build things really, really quickly, and get it out there quickly. But in my view, the need for quality just goes up more.
Yeah.
Because you can build things quicker, but can you actually ensure that the quality levels are met correctly within time? And that, once again, comes down to the measurement of quality mindshare as well. For me, I use the building a bridge analogy in terms of what a quality assurance and quality engineering and testing is. So quality assurance is basically, you have a framework to build a bridge. You have your processes, all the structures, your blueprint, etc. And then QE is, using the machinery and robotics to actually ensure that things are getting built at the same time. But also, from the testing side of things, you can't just build a bridge and then just leave it. You have to stress test it, all the welding, all the bolts. So when 5 cars go in versus 100 cars and plus people walking on it, it doesn't fall apart.
Yeah.
Right. So it's the same thing.
Okay. Thank you.
Very good.
So what are the top 3 critical success factors and the one golden rule for leaders to take away? And hopefully this is going to answer the question that was posed earlier. So maybe this time we'll just change, and Ian, you can...
Yeah, and I'm not sure whether I've got kind of 3 takeaways particularly, or whether it answers. We got so many learnings that with things that we cocked up that you kind of you'd improve on going forwards, which is useful. But I think that the piece it's really the theme that's come through today. I think is quality assurance is just not a nice to have. It's a key dependency, and it's just so vital for your business. So all I'd say is just kind of make sure you plan for it, bake it into your project plan, make sure you budget for it better than we did originally. And then make sure you act on it, because I do hear stories where kind of people throw it in as an afterthought and kind of then have a look at it and ignore the feedback, or ignore kind of don't act on those tests. So for me, having a second set of objective eyes across everything and robustly is just kind of second to none. That said, I don't think you kind of ever stop worrying. If there's 2 things that kind of I'm constantly worrying about 24/7, it's reliability and cybersecurity. And I kind of go, so I don't think you never do enough to, and to your point, Reg, in this day and age, everyone's trying to have a crack at you. So what can you do to keep your business or your system safe?
Sarah?
I've been doing this a long time, so I've known when it's gone poorly, I've known when it's gone well. And Lotto went very well. And so probably the 3 things for me, and the golden rule, I guess, is for me getting that board ownership and executive ownership. So in the execs, everyone's KPIs had this as a success, not just mine. And it was really important and how that played out. And really having our board buy-in. We also had a board subcommittee that we reported to every about 6 weeks. But also having the board operate at a board level, not getting involved in the operational aspects, but really providing that leadership and guidance. And one of the key ones that came for me is what I mentioned is protect that relationship. Hold them to their contract, but protect that relationship was a really good advice. And then the second thing for me is that internal capability that I mentioned, getting the experts from the business, and if it's your number one priority, apply them to that, but backfill is critical. And then the third for me is recognising early when you need external expertise, and that could be because of volume, but it can also be that this just isn't your wheelhouse, or you're just not experts in this area. And for us, that was data migration, massive data migration, 1.7 million players' financial history. Important to get that right down to the dollars and cents. We just recognised early we needed experts in this area and hired an expert data migration company, Sasini, which proved to be the right decision. So probably the golden takeaway is something I've learned over years and years is act early. You know when that person's not right in that role. You know when that behaviour was not right. And you know these things. You have to act. You have to have that difficult conversation over coffee. It's never comfortable. But you have to start to get comfortable with robust conversations and do it in a way that is respectful. But to me, discuss and explore options with them. You know, it's not working, so what could we do? And we had many of those conversations throughout this program. And for me, that's always over all these years. And I really admire people who have done that when I've sat back and gone, oh God, that's awkward. I really don't want to have that conversation. But the quicker you lean into it, the better it's going to be for everybody, including the person who may exit. It's the better for them.
Yeah. Maybe I could refer you to page 37. It's just an interesting point because we say that when the process is wrong, we'll spend an inordinate amount of time fixing the process.
Yeah.
When the people are wrong, we'll spend an inordinate amount of time and money fixing the process. And it's because of that hard conversation, the courageous conversation that you need to have. And thank you for that, to do that early.
Yeah.
It's not like a fine wine, it doesn't get better with age.
No.
Okay, as we go, cool. Ladies and gentlemen, are there any final questions? Here's a great opportunity. If you have any burning issues or anything that you'd like to talk about.
So if I tell us that we can whilst I can very what I test in the game is really like excitability and usability and funability.
Yeah.
They were part of your thought.
Usability. Probably Tanya's probably better to answer that one. Yeah.
Yeah, we do lots of testing on the games, but we've got a team who create all the games and they give us they sort out all the creative thing and they sort out how it should look and then they tell us and then we test it and make sure that that's what it does. And so, yeah, we retest, but that's in Kerry Online, they test all of those games very, very thoroughly and we have 504 tests that we run for every single game before it's allowed to go into production. And they cover accessibility and everything. So we'll check for the visually impaired, we check and for etc. as well. And we test all of that.
All our games also go through harm committees, so to make sure that they are not, that we minimise harm to our players. Obviously, we can't have Barbie Pink when Barbie came out because that appeals to children, these sorts of things. So a lot of controls we place, yeah. But that's in the design phase, not in the testing phase, yeah.
Yeah, design, they do a fantastic job and then they just hand us over what it's supposed to look like and then we just make sure that's what it looks like. And then we're doing device testing course. So we use tools for device testing as well as action testing on physical devices as well.
So we do have one Slido question. What did the APIs cost? Who wore those costs? And how were those costs recovered? So I'm guessing there's a CFO in the room. And I think this might be aimed at yourself, Ian.
Oh dear. Well, I mean, from us building them, it's got we have that baked in because it's a fixed cost in terms of our dev team. So putting a price on it probably hard to discuss. But I do know, when you sit down with the guys, the transactional API probably took 6-8 months to build out.
Yes.
So there's a reasonable investment. And then there's investment at the other end where businesses or partners are integrating into their point of sale system. We just finished in approval process at the moment, so we've just done Shopify and Shopify Plus integrations. We removed that barrier for those businesses, smaller businesses that want to participate, because they're never going to pay for those integrations. We're just sort of looking at sort of light speed at the moment, but we tend to put the onus back onto our merchants to do that, because they own the relationship with the POS supplier, not us. So depending, and there are, as you know, there are a multitude of kind of POS systems out there in the marketplace. So there's a few being done already with our existing partners, but and it varies. It depends where the developers sit on those. If it's a New Zealand-based one, it's usually a lot faster and a lot easier. Go to Australia, it's down the pecking order. You go to the US, and it's kind of like you might as well not bother, sort of thing. So it's a case-by-case basis.
Thank you. So just join me in thanking our panel. Thank you. Thank you.